Hey everyone, welcome. This is Heather Burkart with Her Wellbeing, Ayurveda and Yoga. And in today's session, I have a presentation for you called the Gut Health Roadmap. These are essential foods and practices with an east-west approach to a healthy gut. Let's begin. If you're new to my channel, new to the community, welcome. My name is Heather Burkart. I am a certified Ayurvedic practitioner and yoga teacher, and I like to think of myself as an Ayurvedic guru for women's wellness, specifically in the areas of gut and digestive health. And you can learn more about me at my website, herwellbeing.com. Here's what we'll cover today. Today, you'll learn why gut health is important to your overall health and well-being, how toxins affect your gut health, what it feels like when toxins take over, and then I'll offer some solutions, east-west superfoods for gut health and gut detox, fasting, and other supportive practices that act as a complement to the superfoods. And then next steps that you can take if you're interested in following the gut health roadmap with me. So first we'll start with some interesting facts about your gut that you may or may not already know. So you may know that gut health does have a significant impact on your health. This is something that Ayurveda has known for a long, long time. It is now being discovered by Western science, which is fantastic. But we're learning now that gut health is connected to the overall health and well-being in general, it was just an exciting discovery. That's really just being reiterated. And the gut does play an important role in managing inflammation, in our immune response, in metabolic health, and hormone balance. That's, important for women, but really important for everyone. Gut health can be shifted through diet, through exercise, and other lifestyle changes. So do not despair. Gut health is usually very workable in this very practical way that Ayurveda uses with diet and lifestyle. The absorption of vitamins, minerals, and nutrients from food depends on your gut health. So you can eat the best diet, but if your gut health is poor, you may not actually be able to make great use of that food. The gut can be damaged by processed foods, processed sugars, and flour over time. It can be damaged. The gut lining can be damaged, which is why you're hearing so much about leaky gut by not just processed foods, but also lifestyle challenges. And again, I think gut health is workable, but we can also, we can damage our gut health depending on how we choose our food and depending on our lifestyle choices. And many health issues are a result of a disrupted gut microbiome. Now, I'm not making any of these facts up. These are all backed up by modern scientific research. All you have to do is a quick search on gut health, and you will see many of these points and many more. I'm just showing you the main ones that I think are most important to women that I work with. So we'll talk about toxins and why you need to break up with them. So the gut is the center of your health, and this is where nutrients are absorbed and waste is eliminated. This is a quote. It also houses beneficial microorganisms that contribute to your overall health and well-being. And the gut contains trillions of beneficial bacteria that aid in digestion, immunity, and energy production. If it's unhealthy, it can lead to a host of problems, including, and I think I summed up because this list was longer, including hormone imbalance, immune disorders, skin problems, digestive issues, and more. And I do have the link for the resource here, which is the National Institutes of Health.gov, NIH.gov, and this comes out of their National Complementary Health Institute. And something also important for especially women to keep in mind is that gut health imbalance can create a hormone imbalance, as I've touched on in the previous slide. What we have is called the estrobolome. So if you have a uterus and female reproductive organs, you have what's known as the estrobolome. And this is a collection of gut bacteria responsible for metabolizing estrogen, which plays a role in maintaining hormonal balance. It produces enzymes that regulate reactivation and recirculation of estrogens within the body. And when the estrobolome is balanced, it helps to remove excess estrogen efficiently, preventing hormone imbalances. Unfortunately, moving on to the next quote, excess circulating estrogen can contribute to conditions such as obesity, cancer, endometriosis, PCOS, infertility, cognitive function or decline, and cardiovascular disease. So this is really important. This gut microbiome estrogen connection called the estrobolome is so important. And this is why gut health does affect your hormones. And then in general, toxins or bad bugs lead to poor digestion and poor assimilation of nutrients, as we covered earlier. And it's your digestion's job basically to convert food to energy by breaking it down into its smallest parts and transforming that, absorbing the nutrients and sending the nutrients where they need to go. However, toxins or bad gut bugs can get in the way of this process. So they can decrease your digestive ability to make the best use of nutrients. In other words, we get less energy from our food, which leads to low energy and low mood. Also, we gain weight over time because the energy gets stored and not burned as fuel. So toxins basically equal low energy and a sluggish metabolism. According to emerging research, disruptions in the gut microbiome may be one of the most significant factors in many common health conditions. So this is just a source backing up one of my previous slides. For example, if you're eating processed foods or not getting a fiber, your gut may be overrun with bad bacteria, yeast, or other infections, which can negatively affect your health. And again, my sources here from the National Institutes of Health.gov. So toxins are a problem. How do you know that you have an excess amount of toxins in your system? And remember, this is going to affect your energy and your mood, but it can also affect your skin. You can have more skin blemishes or breakouts. You can look tired and have dark circles under your eyes. You can have brain fog and have difficulty thinking clearly or remembering. You have trouble with focusing. You feel tired, you feel achy with achy muscles and joints, especially when you wake up in the morning. And you may even experience regular headaches. Your digestion, your post-digestion experience may be poor, maybe feeling really bloated or gassy after you've had a meal. Maybe you feel like you have a lot of padding around your stomach. So these are all signs that digestion is not up to par, and it may be working overtime against managing toxins in your gut. So now let's look at the bright side, the benefits of a healthy gut. So number one, you may notice that your complexion clears. Well, this is one of the first things I noticed because I had chronic acne um, back in the day, and this is one of the first signs that I knew that this was working, that Ayurveda was working on my digestion and gut health was helping to clear my complexion. Then I noticed energy levels were more sustained. I noticed that I had greater mental clarity. Your immune defense can be stronger because we know now that many of your immune cells live in your gut. You may have a more steady sense of a strong metabolism, and a healthy weight is maintained naturally, no dieting needed. And less indigestion, like really uncomfortable bloating and gas, especially right after you eat, within the first 20 to 30 minutes after you eat, having distension and feeling terrible and tired and sluggish, right? So having less of that, actually feeling good and energetic after you eat, that is a sign of a healthy gut. Now, sometimes we're going to feel sluggish no matter what if we overeat. So let's just be really clear about that. We can overdo it and then we're going to feel miserable. But if you're eating healthy portions, you should feel pretty stable after a meal. And then your mood should also stabilize. Everyone has an energy dip towards the maybe end of the afternoon. That's totally normal. But it shouldn't be so great that you need a nap or need a cup of coffee to stay focused, right? So that little nudge means that it's time for a break, not time for a nap. And then finally, it's going to regulate your hormones. So you may, especially if you're in the perimenopausal stages, you may um, have less sleep interruptions, less flashes, less night sweats, less moodiness, and clearer skin, right? So all of those symptoms of perimenopause um, can start to lighten a little bit as we start to work with our gut health. So if that doesn't excite you, I don't know what will. Let's take a look at this gut health roadmap, and I'll tell you a little bit more of the step by step. So number one, it really is food based, but it's a very simple plan. And that is to include as many whole foods in your diet that are rich in plant fiber. That is probably the number one takeaway, and that's why it's number one here, is just focusing on whole foods that are rich in plant fibers. Not that animals' protein sources are not allowed, but the emphasis is on plant fiber and really crowding your plate with as much plant fiber as you can. And the animal protein sources that are there are maybe a little bit, they're not the main attraction, but we've got lots of plant fiber. Eating a variety of foods, meaning cooked foods, raw foods, and fermented foods. But the emphasis is on cooked foods and fermented foods. For fermented foods, you really just need a garnish. Same with raw foods, like a little side salad. The majority of your food is cooked or lightly cooked. That is easier on the digestion, especially since plant fiber can be very coarse and hard to digest and can cause some gas and bloating. So we want to cook our vegetables on the most part, unless we're having a little nice side salad with a scoop of fermented foods. We never want to cook fermented foods because then that is going to kill all the beneficial microorganisms that are present there. So including fresh vegetable juices, fruits, nut or seed milks. Again, these are all beneficial plant fibers that are really helpful in your gut. And I forgot to mention here as well, legumes. Legumes and whole grains are so important to include. They are rich in plant fiber, and your gut bugs love that plant fiber, just like any other plant fiber. So the suggestion is to embrace grains and legumes if you tolerate them well. Okay, and then avoiding inflammatory foods, right? And I think most of us know what these are: refined sugar, refined flour products, avoiding processed foods, fried foods, junk foods, foods that you know are not going to be good for you, right? These foods have very low impact on your gut. If anything, they have a negative impact on your gut. Reducing, there's no need. I know avoid is strong wording, but you can reduce your caffeine, but certainly greatly reducing alcohol because that can kill good gut bugs inside you. And then, maybe it reducing red and processed meats. I think poultry and seafood are smart choices. Eggs are smart choices, but it's the heavier red and processed meats that can really can bog your gut down. So just thinking of these lighter animal proteins if you do eat those. If not, maybe there's tofu, tempeh, soybeans that you can incorporate as a protein source. Okay, let's talk about some of these important Ayurvedic superfoods that you can include. And I've included just my top four ones that I think are really important. Number one is mung beans. I have all of my clients incorporate mung beans into their meal rotation at least once a week. So mung beans help to soothe the gut. They fight inflammation. They fight hyperacidity. So they really soothe the gut. And it's that inflammation and that hyperacidity that can eat away the gut lining. They also have that wonderful plant fiber that your gut loves. And they are really, that plant fiber is really good at sweeping through your system to bring toxins safely out of your system. And it's also a great protein source. Turmeric is a powerful anti-inflammatory herb. A little goes a long way. You really do not need to use tablespoons worth of turmeric to have an effect, unless your practitioner has you doing that for a particular reason. Ginger is a wonderful ally to digestion. It helps to boost circulation, detoxification. It can be soothing to the stomach, and this is fresh ginger. Dried ginger can be really strong. So usually we're talking about fresh ginger root as pictured in this image. Ghee is Ayurveda's healthy fat of choice. It is rich in butyric acid that feeds your gut microbugs, and it helps to guide toxins down your GI tract. So all of these things together in one dish is usually what I include in my roadmap for my clients. And so we will talk more about that in the future. But there are brilliant ways to incorporate all these ingredients into one dish. Here's one of my favorite recipes, and I'm happy to include this in the follow-up email. This is something that I love to drink in the morning, especially when I want to like just boost my gut a little bit. Maybe if I've been sick, or maybe if you've taken a course of antibiotics that were necessary, or you just feel like your gut needs a little boost. So apple cider vinegar is really brilliant for your stomach in small amounts. I find that people tend to overdo it a little bit, and then it's maybe creating a little bit too much acidity. So a balance of apple cider vinegar, a small amount, a large amount of water. You can see this is a large mason jar. There's 4 cups of water in this jar with only quarter cup of apple cider vinegar, and that's actually a little on the strong side. So you can dial it back a little bit and add these digestive spices. cinnamon, ginger, turmeric, and a little bit of, actually, I like a lot of local raw honey, um, shaken up and sipped in the morning and throughout the day, until it's gone. Right? Sometimes I have some left over the next day. I'm sipping it the next day. Just sip on it until it's gone. It might take you a couple of days. That's fine. There's no need to chug. So little bits, your stomach really likes small portions, really doesn't like having large portions of anything. Include herbal tea. So this is always part of my gut protocol, which is CCFT made of coriander, cumin, and fennel seeds. All these three seeds help to soothe the gut. They're anti-inflammatory. They're soothing to indigestion, and they can even sharpen and clear the mind. Like cumin seeds, like fennel seeds, coriander can even lift the spirit. Coriander is another word for cilantro seeds. This is a traditional combination that we usually use to clear the gut, clear the mind. And I also like to include my own links for products that I love. Like what you see here is the CCFT Blend Detox Digest that has turmeric and ginger in it. So Banyan Botanicals have come up with some great blends that are really delicious. So I like to freely share links to resources so you know which products really are the best products to buy if you really need to buy anything other than just fresh foods and whole foods and produce. So gut healing superfoods include foods that are rich in probiotics like sauerkraut. This is the type of sauerkraut that you can make yourself. You can buy in the grocery store in the refrigerated section. It's not the canned sauerkraut that's just soaked in vinegar. This is lacto fermented vegetables or cabbage that are naturally fermented. So that's what you want to look for. And other fermented vegetables like carrots or beets or kimchi would also be rich in probiotics. You can get kimchi with spices or without spices, miso, tempeh, and honey. I always love to put honey in my tea to add a little bit of sweetness, but also honey has these wonderful microorganisms that are local to you if you find local honey. And of course, when you add those, the water is not boiling hot so that you don't boil those organisms away. That's really important. Of course, you can take probiotics as a supplement, but that's really a very messy science. Let me go back here for a minute. You know, your gut microbiome is very specific to you. And so it makes much more sense to feed it with probiotics from foods that have tons of microorganisms in them, whereas a supplement might just have one or two or three. I mean, it's kind of um, random, right? Whether or not that combination is going to make the most sense for you. Like, yes, they're more common, but these food-based probiotics are going to be so much more complex than any probiotic supplement that you can buy, even honey, right? So I tend to say skip the supplements unless you're really working with a bad case of dysbiosis, which is gut health imbalance, gut microbiome imbalance, and that's been prescribed to you. Then yes, that might be important to take a supplement. But if you're doing this from a preventative standpoint, then usually including probiotics like these can be more than enough, more than enough. Okay. Um, and then simple fasting. So this is also something that's part of my roadmap that I really like to include. And I feel it does make a big difference because, the food is important. The probiotics and the prebiotics are important, but then also to introduce some really simple fasting practices like just resting your digestion in between meals. In other words, to avoid snacking when you can, when it's possible, right? And then fasting after dinner. So instead of, I know some people are in the habit of like having the munchies after dinner and like having dessert and all these things late into the night. What your digestion needs to do after dinner is start to digest and digest your last meal and finish digesting the rest of your meals from that day. So the more you rest your digestion in the evening, the more clear and energetic you will feel the next day because your body has been able to go through that process without any problems, without more food coming in. So this is such an important practice that I include in my protocol. And then here's another one. Mindful eating is so very important because you can eat all the best foods, but if you were overeating or if you were grazing all day long, or if you're drinking, coffee beverages all day long, or just eating in this very distracted way, you could actually be harming your gut health. So remember, listen to your body, eat when you're hungry, not when you're not hungry, and not just out of habit. So follow your body's cues. Make time for sit down meals. Like this image here of this young lady, she's sitting down, which is great. She's reading a book. So maybe we could be a little bit more attentive here. But the idea of sitting down for meals is kind of a lost art. And so see if you can revive that in your routine to see how it feels. It's really quite satisfying to sit down and make time for meals. It really only takes about 10, 15 meals 15 minutes to sit down and eat. So it's not a whole lot of time, and it's definitely worth it. Pay attention to your food and put away distractions. This way, when you're paying attention to your food, your brain and your gut can communicate and they can talk about when it's time for you to put your fork down. Otherwise, if you're distracted, it's really hard for you to tune into that because they're fairly subtle signs that you're done. But you will notice at some point that you switch from being hungry to not hungry. And if you're not paying attention, you may miss that. So watch your hunger signs and wait for your hunger signs before you eat. And that's always. And so, maybe you eat around the same time every day, but it's slightly different depending on when you actually get hungry. So remember to listen to your body. Now, if that all sounds really good to you, my gut health roadmap, and if you're ready for a real transformation, I do have a new offering this year called the Gut Health Roadmap. And this is a program that I've made available to my private clients for a long time and that I've made into an 8-week program for anyone to try. Anyone that wants to try these various practices in a step-by-step way. So what the roadmap is 8 weeks of restorative gut health practices inspired by an east-west approach. So we go over essential gut-friendly foods and herbs. And so there's absolutely no confusion about what to eat or not eat, right? So this is very, very clear and it's fairly simple, right? We went over the basics today. So we'll get a little bit more into details during the program, but it's very practical, no nonsense. There's no, confusing supplements to buy or smoothies to make and drink. It's just really all about eating real food. And that's what my hope is for you, is that you just have more healthful, beautiful foods on your plate. And we'll go over those essential lifestyle and mindfulness practices that we talked about more in depth, including the fasting practices that are essential. And each week has a theme. So we focus on one thing at a time and really nailing that down as best as we can. Each week there will be a live session and also an email with links to resources, recipes, and videos. So you'll have some support in your inbox, and you'll be invited to a live session as well with me, a place for us to just land and bring our questions and our triumphs and our trials, and to be just going through this process together in this very natural way. Bumps and curves are all part of the plan. There's no perfection that is expected at all. And then there is a journal workbook that can guide you through this transformational process with journaling, with setting down your intentions, what are your goals. And I'm very focused on helping you put these habits, really which what that's what these are. They're these healthy habits into place. And so we work with one habit at a time in the workbook, and you journal about those, and you help make them make sense. So you're not trying to do everything all at once. It's a very step-by-step approach that is backed by science. And so we use this process to really be more effective in the habits that we are putting into place. Not all of them are going to stick, probably, but you can get the ones that are most essential, most important to you. And then the invitation is to join my online community in Her Balance. This is an online community that I lead for women who are working on restoring their gut health in order to improve their energy, their mood, and their mind. And so when you join the community, you have access to all the modules of this 8-week process, but I also lead you through them. So you'll get the invites, you'll be able to attend the live sessions, you'll get the email reminders. And this is all starting very soon. So don't delay. You'll want to sign up with the link in the follow-up email so that you can be ready to go when we start the gut health roadmap. Thank you so much for listening today. If you have questions for me, you can put those in the follow-up email. You can reply to that email so that I have your questions and I can respond to you right away. And I'm happy to invite you and welcome you to our online community where so many women have improved their gut health to feel better overall from the inside out. Again, this is not about a silver bullet. It's not about a diet or a pill or an exercise routine. This is really about creating a supportive lifestyle that supports your gut health. So we're working from within the body, certainly, but we're also working in our environment to make that into a more supportive place to reach our wellness goals for whatever we have laid out for us. So again, thank you for being here today. And you will get this replay and any resources in the follow-up email. Namaste, everyone.